So can both of you talk a little bit about your own organizational affiliation or how it is that you organize for the DREAM Act and immigrant rights? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So after the DREAM Act didn't pass last year, I started talking to some people. Even before we started talking about forming groups in different areas where groups didn't or people didn't really organize traditionally. And so we started organizing in the San Gabriel Valley area, and then we connected with the Inland Empire and different parts of Los Angeles, and we really started build more local organizing because we felt that we needed to bring the fight to the local level because we did the national, but one thing that we felt needed to be stronger was the local organizing. And so we formed the San Gabriel Valley Dream Team, and we're still evolving in a lot of ways, but we were able to connect early on with national groups like the National Immigrant Youth Alliance, and we went from there, and that's what kind of took us to where we organized in Alabama.
Can you tell us what the core issues that the San Gabriel Dream Team is focused on, like your core organizing issues?
Well, the core organizing would be empowering youth, right, to get out and be active, right? Because when you challenge the system directly, it falls apart, right? You can see it with our action. We challenged ICE directly and publicly, and they didn't want to put us in deportation proceedings. But when you do it behind cameras, closed doors, then they do. That's why we were placed in deportation proceedings.
Can you tell us actually how you challenged ICE, the story of that?
We can do that. I think more of our principles is we want to step away from the DREAM Act, not step away but go beyond it, right? I think when we fought for the DREAM Act, we set the groundwork for the current work that we're doing now, but what we're running into is that people don't want to do something that's outside of what a dreamer is. People don't want to fight for people that are not DREAM Act eligible, and so, or people that have committed crimes. And so we want to go beyond that and really fight for all undocumented people. And we've been focusing on stopping deportations and focusing on the criminalization of immigrants and people of color. And so, and I think, like Isaac said, is the empowering part. And I think essential to our work is helping people lose that fear or overcome that fear of either immigration, ICE, police, and so we can liberate ourselves and organize.
Okay.
You can go in the framework of the first civil disobedience, going to the next wide escalation.
Okay. Early in the year, we have heard stories of outside of LA, San Bernardino County. We heard people, students in San Bernardino Valley College were being asked for documentation. And it got to the point where these students were afraid to go to school. And hearing that, we felt the need to take the fight over there to empower these youth and to empower the immigrant community to stand up. And so we staged a sit-in. It was 7 of us, the first undocumented civil disobedience in California. And that led to others stepping up and joining in the civil disobedience movement.
And now can you describe to us the civil disobedience that happened in Alabama and then Louisiana? And what were you hoping to accomplish with that?
Well, I think it really began with the one in San Bernardino because our intention was to show the country what Obama has been doing in terms of these lies
the first civil disobedience, and then you're going to move into Alabama.
Right, so the first civil disobedience in San Bernardino happened because we wanted to challenge the system. We wanted to challenge the system and policies like secure communities and 287G that criminalize immigrants. So we actually wanted ICE to get involved in our cases, but they decided not to. And so what happens is ICE doesn't pursue our cases when it's a public action. And so we wanted to escalate, see how far we can take it. So after the action in San Bernardino, another group of students that we work with wanted to engage in civil disobedience as well, and they did a sit-in inside ICE headquarters, which is next to the detention center in Los Angeles. And so they did the sit-in inside, and other three citizens decided to also engage in civil disobedience outside, blocking a van full of people that were about to get deported. And so it's been about escalation, and so we wanted to take it to the next level and take it to Alabama, where it's a very draconian anti-immigrant law that had just passed, and we wanted to escalate there, but also so we can support the immigrant community there, empowering the undocumented youth there so they can begin organizing as well. And so, but at the same time, we knew ICE was not going to get involved. And so in order to make sure to expose what is happening, me and Isaac decided to make sure of that. And we went, what people are calling is, we went undercover and decided to pretend we're afraid, pretend we are not connected in any way. And, we walked into Border Patrol and started saying like, we don't agree with what you're doing, you're deporting people. But like very, very, just regular talk, nothing very sophisticated or articulate, right? And so we were placed in deportation proceedings. And so it was a success because there weren't any cameras rolling. And so we were transferred to first a prison in South Louisiana, and then we're taken to a detention center in Louisiana. And so we really wanted to go in there and start getting those cases because, we can do it, but we did it on purpose. So we needed the evidence. And we found many cases of people that had only been caught with driving without a license, or they got in a car accident, very minor things, or nothing at all. And so we needed to do that. We did a couple interviews from inside the detention center, but it was what we did was nothing special. I feel there was more people ready to do it, but they weren't as successful as we were into getting into deportation. And so it sets a precedence for more people to do it and begin organizing from within the detention centers all over the United States. And so that's our natural escalation, because we know civil disobedience only takes us so far.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the conditions of life for those who are detained in these facilities?
Yeah, I felt one of the worst memories I've had was having to help this friend. I made a friend in there. He made several friends, and I had to help a friend request for a faster deportation, right? Because the scenario there changes, because most of these people, they have to sign, in order to get back to their families, to provide for them, because they're stuck in there for months, and they just don't want to be incarcerated, and they just want to leave. And that's one of the toughest things I had to witness. Many people, they were just signing it off, and I had to help one of them do that, and it was heartbreaking, and it made me angry, but I did it, and I understood why. But it's a warehouse. So there's 70 bunk beds. The calls are very expensive. Most of the people there don't have a means to contact their family or even information of when their court hearing is. So they're just kept there. They're being controlled. They're being dehumanized They take away your clothes, your sense of freedom, and
How far were you prepared to go? Were you hoping to be deported, or?
In terms of being deported, we knew that wasn't gonna happen, because we also want people to know that they can come out of the shadows, they can do civil disobedience, they can do actions and still be safe, right? If you organize. And so I think going in there, I mean, we didn't know exactly how long we were gonna be there, and so we were ready to stay there for a while. Even when the day we got out, they told us we were gonna be there another month, and I was like, oh man, but you know, I prepared at the moment. I was like, okay, another month, then another month means a hunger strike. Gives us time to organize inside, because it was until the last few days we really started seeing the issues that were happening. Like Isaac mentioned, all those issues were really putting people down, and so. But beyond that, I think being in there is a constant struggle against depression. I think if I were in any of their situations, not knowing if I were gonna get out, when I'm gonna be deported, it's depressing. And so I think going in there, we were a lot better prepared than most people, and we knew because we had the funds to be able to call frequently, and so I think we were in a different situation. But looking back, is we were ready to stay there if need be.
When you guys got in there, were you guys boarded up with together, separate from everybody else, or what were the pods like?
We were together the whole time, which was, I think, was good, because we can talk and debrief, and we would talk to other people that were detained, and we would look at their cases, and you know, it was great because we can kind of debrief, and we're like, oh, is this case good? You know, we can help them out definitely, or let's see what we can do. If not, we would just connect them to an attorney. And so having two people there was definitely great. Although, because we thought more people were gonna be there, because more people were supposed to do the action, we were kind of hoping there'd be more people, and hopefully also in different pods. But that didn't happen, so that was kind of harder on us, because you know, we expected to see a familiar face, especially after prison. We were alone for most of the time.
How do you see the organizing headed in Alabama? Do you have a lot of hope?
It depends. I think from what we heard inside was kind of interesting. The Dream activists and the other groups that are part of the National Immigrant Youth Alliance, they were calling us outsiders, and so the large nonprofits, national nonprofits, came in and were saying we're outsiders. They even had a big town hall where most of the community was outside, and so, but it's typical nonprofits that work within the system, you know. So we knew that was gonna happen, and so I think now that there's a Alabama Youth Collective that's more aligned with the type of work that we want to do, I think they can definitely push it to the next level. But like any state, like Arizona or everyone, these nonprofits are gonna come in and try to benefit, you know, because they get grants out of it. But you know, at the end of the day, we're not getting paid for this. We don't have a job that, you know, we come into a community where a law passes, you know, you organize, you get people to vote. Like, that's not what we're about. We're about empowering and making sure that there's something there that is not being controlled, that is youth-led, and that's undocumented-led. And so that was our purpose in coming to Alabama. And naturally, we had to take it to civil disobedience, especially because of its significance in Alabama, with the 60s and the students from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and what they did there and all over the South. But it also, being in Alabama also made us realize that it's not just Alabama, but it's the South. What we heard from Louisiana, what we heard from Mississippi, was very similar. But just because they don't have an anti-immigrant law doesn't mean anti-immigrant policies or things are being enforced. They have 287G, where police can enforce immigration law, and so it's just kind of an eye opener in that sense. Just because they don't have, anti-immigrant law doesn't mean that they're okay.
How do people in the detention feel?
Excuse me.
Can you describe who is being held in the detention facilities and how it is that people interact with one another?
Certainly. I had the pleasure of meeting so many men of family and very humble, hardworking men that didn't even know us, and they offered us food or whatever we needed. And most of their struggles, just being undocumented and coming to this country and having to provide for a family and then being criminalized by these systems.
Well, you mentioned that there were people of different ethnic backgrounds and how it is that people relate to one another.
Yeah, I think we were really. I personally was surprised. I was surprised of how many West African immigrants were in there, and so and even their stories were pretty powerful as well. One came, I forgot what country, but came all the way to Peru, crossed through Colombia, Panama, all the way through Latin America to get to the United States as a refugee, and then he's being deported, and so it was just kind of sad, someone that can take that journey and risk it all and because he had no choice and come to the United States, and this is like the end of the line for him, but there was people coming from all over. There was a lot of Central American, Mexican, and so. But it's not what you think, people weren't separate. Yeah, you have people, that spoke their language, they would hang out, but then they would go and play soccer or basketball and they would play together, or they would even talk. We had immigrant from Cameroon speaking with us, and we would speak with people that spoke Spanish only, with people that spoke English and Spanish, and we would just translate to each other, and it was just a different kind of connection. It wasn't any racial, politics. There was some misconceptions, but people were very open because they knew they were the same. They were hardworking people.
Just checking the time because I don't want them to miss the train. I have another
It's
question.
like 4 or 5, but
I have another question.
Okay, yes, please.
How did you, in the beginning, get their trust? Or was that something that just came because of your presence there and they knew why you were there? Or did you have to go out and about and talk to them? And
No, there was no sense of I need to get your trust, because it was just so genuine to just walk up and, hey, how you doing? Why are you here? Or why did they get you? And I would ask, and they respectfully would be like, oh, you know what? This is my story. I was on my way from work, and they stopped me and they asked me for a driver's license, and I didn't have it, and they called ICE, just by the way I looked. And most of the stories, that's what I heard, and I was like, oh, but it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard because people were friendly, and when we told them, hey, we came in here to try and support and try to organize something in here, they were supportive. when we were in prison, the 5th day they brought some new people in, and we met them, and we hadn't seen anybody else other than each other for like 4 days, so we were excited. And we met them, and they're, you know, people make mistakes, but I don't believe in deportations. Even if, you know, it's a DUI, people should be able to, you know, pay a fee or whatever regular people do, right? So it wasn't hard at all.
What are you taking back with you from this experience?
I don't know, maybe before, there was a part, to answer your question, I think there was some hope, because when we found out we were gonna leave and they called us, it was just interesting, because then people that hadn't had the opportunity to talk with knew we were the ones from California. They started asking questions right as we were gonna leave, you know, and they were like, here's my story, please help me. And it was just like, wow, like, I just saw their eyes, and I was like, I know I'm here to help, but I can't do what you want me to do, you know. But you just saw that glimmer of hope, you know, that maybe I can do something. And I told them, you know what, I came here and, you know, I wanted to help you all, but my time, I can't stay any longer, and, you know, at least what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna organize from the outside, you know, and I'm committed to that. But I had never seen that look ever in someone's eyes. It's like, you are the one that can help me, please help me. And so that was hard to kind of just take in and digest. And I had never been put in a situation where so much was put on me, and it was kind of hard leaving. And I wanted to stay at that moment. I wanted to stay another day or two, you know, just to talk to those people I didn't have the chance to speak to. And so I think what was shocking about all the people that I met there is that they're very politicized. They knew why they were there. They knew what policies got them there, and they knew why it was happening. And so it wasn't really about educating or politicizing. It was more of how, you know. So I think and they probably had seen us in the news, and they probably didn't know us, you know, because we would watch the Spanish news, and they were talking about secure communities and deportations, and everyone got quiet whenever that happened. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential to what can be done within a detention center, just because they're already informed, you know. So it's just about how do you do it.
Can you just tell us quickly where you walked in to the Border Patrol, how long you were there, where you went, just like a kind of day.
Play by play.
Yeah.
So it's the Border Patrol office in Mobile, Alabama, which is an entry point to the United States. And so I just walked in there. I asked for directions, and the woman that was at the front door looked at me and said, "Okay, well, I'll be right back." And so she ended up bringing 3 Border Patrol agents. So I was thinking, like, what did she think I was? Like, do I look very undocumented? Where you needed to go ask 3 Border Patrol agents to come and give me directions. But they knew something was up, and so I told them that I was undocumented, and then they asked for ID. I showed them my Colombian ID, and they took me in. They asked me questions. I answered their questions, and within the hour, I was on deportation proceedings. And so then they put us in a van, and then Isaac came in, and I was like, I didn't look at him because I wasn't sure if you know, if he had told them that we were together or we were friends, and so I was just pretending not to know him. But I think they were thrown off. I don't think people walk in or or they were saying like, well, we gotta hurry up because we gotta be out by 5, you know, because that's your job. And so it was also interesting for us to see that they have jobs and they're people, but they just don't have that conscience. They don't know what they're actually doing.
So
Yeah.
from Mobile, then you went.
Before that, I had an interesting conversation. After Jonathan went in, I went in after him. You know, acting. I was looking out for my friend. Hey, where's my friend? You know, this is a job site. Somebody dropped me off here. I'm just trying to work. You know, trying to act
I'm
like
sorry.
a
Can
rep.
you start that story again? I'm sorry.
It was interesting. I walked in right after Jonathan, and I acted scared, and I was in there, and after a while, I broke my character because I was just so angry. I asked one of the border patrol officers. I was like, "Hey, you know, do you like your job? Is this what you like to do? You like to separate families and, you know, destroy them?" And he's like, "You know what? I don't do that." He told me, "I don't do that." His name was Hector. Torres. And he told me, "You know, I don't separate families because," and I was like, "You know what? If you were to deport me, my family and kids would stay here, and they would need me to provide for them. And you're separating me, and you're destroying us." And he's like, "No, you know what? If I deport you right now, they have the option of leaving too." And I was just so, you know, overwhelmed, so I couldn't really say anything. I think I would explode. So that's the kind of mentality that these people have, and it's tragic, but it's reality, and I feel like we need to create this sense of urgency, right? Because that's what I would love to bring back to California and to like the rest of the people. A message like, this is urgent. These people are in there right now. As we're doing this video, these people right now are in despair. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're going to see their families again. And it's just very sad.
But the best part is that we were counting on them doing their job. We really were, and they did it fine. They did an awesome job. You know, they did what they had to do, and they put us on deportation proceedings. And so, you know, mission accomplished. And, you know, when we went back, because they kept our phones, we went back before we left. They were just kind of scared in a way. When we went back, they were like, "You're back." And then when we got our, we went to sign the forms to release our phones, they were all just looking at us like 5 people. And I was like, okay. And then when we left, they were still looking at us like out the window. And so it was just kind of funny because they didn't want their day to be ruined, or they actually found out who were connected with, that it was an actual organizing effort, and so they were a little bit more cautious this time. Yeah, it was fun at the end of the day.
I'd like to talk about something. Many people, you know, ask me, you know, "You're so courageous, you're fearless," you know, but I feel like I reflect and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can do all that, you know, but it's me because but you know, just see, when we were let go, we were at the trailer park, and I had the pleasure of meeting these other undocumented youth. That one of them participated in the action in Montgomery. The little one, that's you know, the fear that I have. She broke down, and I didn't have the words to say to her, you know, and that's the real fear. Not being able to tell this girl or these kids some words of comfort, you know, because their parents might be deported at any time, or they're not going to be able to go to school, or this reality that they face. And definitely a very empowering experience, and it just, you know, it gives me power to keep going, and that's what we're going to bring to, hopefully, to California.
The interesting thing about the youth is that they were actually more concerned with them speaking in front of us and telling their story, but she did so with disobedience. And I was like, why are you afraid? You completely risked it all, and you got arrested, and it was just an interesting thing. She's 17, and most of us can never, like, at that age, would we have done this? Probably not. And so she's way ahead of the game, and this is happening in Alabama, and that's why I think I was able to leave, because I knew there was someone there, that is already unafraid, and they're ready to take whatever comes at them. So, and that needs to happen everywhere, not just where you have anti-immigrant laws. Here in New Mexico, we just came back from speaking to a bunch of undocumented groups at their Congress, and they want to do the same. And so it's only about us talking to them and really taking it to the next level. And it's going to happen starting next year. Stay tuned.
Okay, we're gonna have to go.
Stay tuned, that's a good way to